Hey you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. It's Amy Gretchen, and in today's video, we are going to be playing with some digital files so that you can expand your use of all of your digital products. That is the one thing that is so amazing about buying and purchasing digital files is there's so many ways to manipulate it in a way that you're not able to do with our physical products. So I just wanted to show you a few of those today. On the screen, you can see the layout that we're going to be making. I'm actually not going to make it entirely from scratch. I'm going to show you part of it just so you can get an idea of how it's going to work so that you guys can finish it up on your own. The files that I'm going to be using today are from Ali Edwards' 2017 February digital kit files. This is an older digital kit, but it's still so relevant and I still really love it. So this story love outline here, this is one of the stamps in the kit, and then life is lovely. This is actually part of a card, and I'm going to show you how to pull these elements off of cards so that they look like stamps. It's really, really easy to do. So the first thing that we want to do is open up a new file. So we're going to hit Control-Command-N, and that's going to bring up our new file document. This is a 6x8, but you could of course do any size that you want. I think that this would actually be really cool as a 12x12 just because your photos would really shine, but feel free to pick whatever style suits your needs. And I already have a 6x8 custom size already opened up, but if you do not, you can go ahead and just hit 6x8, 300 ppi, and then go ahead and hit create. So I've got my blank document in front of me. Then the next thing I do need is to grab my digital files. So here I've got my digital files. This is the outline digital file, and then this is the card that we're going to manipulate. So let's go back to our outline stamp. We're going to just click on this file. We're going to drag it right into our untitled document and just kind of pull it in. And now we've got a file that we're going to play with. So if I was going to try and make a clipping mask of this file right now, what would happen is I would clip the outline, because this file, now you can see I've got a white background here, but if I uncheck this, whatever this is, an eyeball, you can see that this file is actually transparent. It is not white, it is transparent. So in order to be able to use this as a clipping mask, we need to fill in each of these letters. So that is what we're gonna do right now. And it's super easy to do, but it just takes remembering to move from one layer to the next, just so you can get everything on separate layers, because you want everything on separate layers. So I'm only going to do a few of these for you, and then I will let you guys finish up off screen, just because I don't need to show you every single thing. I think that would be just way too long in this video. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to get my magic wand and make sure we're on this layer where we've actually got the outline file. And then I'm going to click on the S. You can see that it's going around the outline. I do have my tolerance set at 75 just so it goes as close to the edge as I can. And I also want to click on, I'm going to click Shift, and then I'm going to click on this little area here. And you know what? Let me Command or Controller Command Plus just to bring up this file, this document, so we can see where we've got this marching ants. And that is what we've selected. The next thing we want to do is we want to take this selection, we want to put it on a new file, or excuse me, a new layer. So I'm going to go down here and click on this plus sign. So we've got a new layer here in our layers panel. And then I'm going to Control or Command delete or backspace. And you can see that this bottom color I have here, it doesn't matter what color you use, this bottom color that I have here is now in the shape of an S, and it's on its own layer, so that when I take off this stamp layer, you can see that now I've got this S. So I'm going to bring that back up. I'm going to Control or Command D just to get rid of those marching ants, so now you can kind of see what it looks like. Now I'm going to move on to the T. But we need to make sure that we are on this layer 1. And before I move off of the layer S, I'm going to rename it. Just double click on where it says layer, and then I'm going to name it an S. You're going to want to do this for all of your layers because you'll end up having tons of layers, and as you're putting your photos in, you're going to want to know exactly which letter you're putting your photo into. So we're just going to make that an S there. Now I am doing this file in this manner because I want you guys to realize that you can use the outline or you can choose to leave off the outline when you're done. So I'm just letting you guys know that that is an option here. Okay, so make sure we're down here on layer 1 or our stamp layer, and then I'm going to click inside the T, and I'm also going to shift click inside this little portion here. Now at this point I can decide to include this in the T, and I'm going to hit shift click on this portion of the T. I want to include that in the T. If you don't want to, or you change your mind, this is something that is easily fixed if you've changed your mind, because your photo works better if you have the entire O. So now that I've got everything highlighted that I want to color, I'm going to come down here and click on a new layer. And I'm just going to go ahead and double click on where it says layer 2, and I'm going to shift click on T just to name it T, so that way I don't have to do it later. Then I'm going to come over here to my colors, and it doesn't, like I said, you could actually do all the same color if you wanted to, but just to make it easier because some of these letters are overlapped, I'm just going to switch the colors. So I'm going to go ahead and hit X, and I don't know why. Oh, it's because I'm still here renaming my file. So make sure you click off of that there so you're not putting an X in that box. So if I click on X here, you can see that it's going to change the colors in the front and in the back. And we want the other color to be in the back. So it's kind of a little bit of a brighter brown there. And I'm going to Controller Command Delete or Controller Command Backspace, depending on your machine. And now when I Controller Command D, I'm going to deselect, and you can see how good that T looks. And I'm just going to uncheck this layer one more time just by clicking on the eyeball. And now you can see how good that T looks there. All right, I'm going to do this one more time just to show you. Like I said, if I go through everything, it'll take so much time, but so I don't feel like I need to do all of it. But I'm going to come back here to layer 1. Click down, and you can see that I've got the marching ants. Then shift click on this outer edge here, and sorry, my mouse is really sensitive. Now we want to make sure that we've got a new layer. That's very essential. We want all of these on a new layer, and if you do make a mistake and put the color right on top of the layer with the stamp, just go ahead and do Control or Command Z just to back up and then redo it. All right, so now that I'm on layer 2, I'm actually going to name this O, and I'm going to name it 1 because we've got 2 O's in this document, this one and this one. So I'm just going to name it O1 so I know it's the one up top, and make sure that I click off of it, but that my layer is still highlighted. Now I'm going to change my color because I just want it to be colorful. So I'm going to click on the bottom layer here, and I'll just come in a little bit more. Maybe I'll make it a little bit more orange. Go ahead and click OK. And then Controller Command Backspace to add that color in. And then I make Controller Command D to deselect it so we have a really good idea of what it looks like. And now I'm just going to uncheck this layer with the stamp, and you can see how awesome it's coming together. And so this is going to allow us to put in our photos. So this is what you're going to want to do for each one of these letters. And like I said, you can decide which part of the letter is going to be with R or to be with O. You guys get to decide that as you're moving along. And like I said, if you make a mistake, or you do something and you realize, oh, this would be better if it was part of the T or the O, you can go ahead and change that really easily. All right, so I have some photos that I'm going to show you here, and then I just want to bring in. So this first photo, I want to be the S. So I'm going to click on that photo and bring it in, and you can see that it's super, super large. And where I want it to be in this document is above the S. So I'm going to come over here and just make sure that my file is above the S. You can see, I'm going to pull it out a little bit, Control Command minus to pull that out a little bit. You can see that it is now above all of the layers because it's the very top of the layer. Now I'm going to come over here on my layers panel where we've got all these lines. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to come down here to create clipping mask, or you could do Shift Command. Is it Shift? No, it's Option Command G and click on that. Now it's hard to tell because my photo was so large, but I do have it clipped right into this S here. So I am actually going to need to change the size of that photo. So I'm going to click on this move tool and make sure I'm in this layer where the photo is. I'm going to click on Control Command T, and you can see that now I've got this bounding box, which is basically the size of my photo. And I'm just going to drag from one corner, and it's staying in proportion because I'm not clicking on anything else. So I'm just going to drag it up so it is a little bit smaller, and so I'm getting more of the photo here. And Control Command T again. And if I want, I can make that a little bit smaller as well to get as much of the photo in as possible. And then I'm just going to click Enter or Return. Sorry, like I said, my mouse is a little bit funny about this. Control Command Plus to bring this up a little bit more. All right, so now let's actually do the O here. So I'm going to bring back my photos. And I think this is the one I used, this one of Adam and I. So I'm just going to bring that in. And if I want to, I can make it smaller now. I'm just going to make this photo smaller because I want to be able to manage it. Just make sure that no brown is showing. And my photo is right up here at the top. So if I make a clipping mask, it's going to clip into this S, which I don't want it to do. I'm going to bring it down over the O. You can see that the T goes in front of it. And then I'm going to Command Option G or Control Alt G. And then I'm going to move my photo around. Now, if you're not able to move your photo around, make sure that you're actually highlighted on the photo in the layers panel. And I'm just going to move this until I can see Adam and I, until we're in a really great spot here. All right, and that looks really good there. And then I will bring in one more photo just to even it out. And I guess we'll bring in this one. I think this is the one I actually used for the T. This is a little dark. I probably should edit this and lighten it up, which I can do. Bring this down here. And since it's up at the top, I want to make sure that it's right above the T. And I'm going to do Command Alt or Control Option G. And now I've got my file in place. And you know what? I think what I actually did here, Control or Command T, is this was still pretty big. So I don't remember there being that much blue space. So you can keep your photo as big or as small as you want. When you're done, just go ahead and hit Enter. And now you can see I've got my photo in place. So that is how you're going to do that. You're going to go ahead and do each and every one of them until you are completed. Now, one thing that I will say, if you can kind of see that I've got this white line around the edge. Now, if you are going to leave, let me just show you what this looks like first. When I uncheck the eyeball and you can see just the outline, you can see how great that looks. And let me bring back the background so you can kind of see, like, that actually looks really, really cool as is, like this, and it would look probably really cool in this document as well. I really like the outline. So if you guys want to use the outline, probably is going to depend on what is going to be your background. But if you really want to use the outline, One thing that I will suggest that you do is that you fill in all these edges, because I don't love that you can see the white and it would print out that way. So I would suggest that you fill it in. So what you're going to want to do is click on whatever layer that you're going to want to paint on. So let's do the O first. And I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to come over to my brush tool. And it is not going to matter what color you have, but just go ahead, and I'll show you right here because this is pretty obvious. I'm going to Control or Command plus so you can kind of see this white area, and make sure that you're on the O. So when I click on this white area, you can, as I click on the white area and kind of paint it in, you can see that it's painting in the actual, what am I trying to say? It's painting in the actual photo because I have a clipping mask here. Now it doesn't really look great with my outline, and that's because the outline is at the bottom of the layer. But if I click on the stamp layer, the stamp outline, and bring it up, you can see now it's really cleaned up. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on this. And if you have a straight edge, hold on, Control or Command Z, make sure that you're painting on the O, right? Because we're working on the O, so make sure that you're painting on the O. If you have a straight line, you can click and hold down the Shift key and just come all the way down, and it's going to stay in a straight line. So that is a quick way to work with some of these straight lines. And we just want to go through and go around all of the edge here just to clean it up, just to get rid of this white line here. Now, you don't need to do this, again, if you're not going to be using the outline. If you don't want to use this outline, then you don't need to do this, because now you can see that I don't have a crisp edge. But if you are going to use the outline, I would definitely go ahead and do this step. Control or Command Z, make sure I'm on the O. It really doesn't take that much time, and it will clean up this file so much so it looks so much better. And you can see that it's very forgiving because that outline is so thick. So just make sure you go around and clean up this whole edge here. So you can see here, and in order to get that hand and move the document, I'm just holding down the Shift, the space bar. So you can see this white edge here compared to not having an edge here at all on this O. So just keep that in mind, that is an option depending on how you're going to be using this file. So for me, when I come back to my file, that is what I did on mine, and I'll show you when I uncheck this layer. You can see how jaggedy it is and how bad it is. Let me Control or Command plus. You can kind of see just how wonky all these lines look. Like with the S, you can see how wonky everything is. And that's because I was using the outline here. And so that is why. And in fact, I've made a mistake here. This S should be this picture here. So I'm going to fix that with you guys so you can kind of see what you need to do to fix your files. So I'm going to come down here and find my S, which is down here at the bottom. Click on that, and I've got my brush tool, and I'm just going to click. And you're not seeing a change right now, and that's because the T is above the S. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the S, shift click on the photo also, and I'm going to move them above the T and the T photo. And now you can see that that is above it. So I hope that that made sense. So if I bring it back down, you can see that the T has taken over that spot. But if I bring it up, then it's covering it just because it's on the top of it. So you guys can try and play with how you want this, how you want everything kind of layered together. It's up to you. You can manipulate things by moving the layers and whatnot. All right, so coming back here to our file that we were working on, I'm in Control or Command minus just so we can see like the whole thing. Now, like I've said multiple times, I'm not going to go through putting everything in because you can see with my final result how it looks. So once you have all of that done, I would just Control or Command, or excuse me, I would click on the very bottom layer that's with this section. So only the story outline and then all of the files that are with it. Click Shift and then, or hold down Shift and then click the very top layer. And then I'm going to make this into a group. So I'm just going to drag this down into a group here. And now you can see I've got group 1, and that's just got everything together so that it's organized because I'm going to bring in a few things here. The next thing that I want to do is I want to work on the background, and I was hesitant to know what I wanted to do for the background, but I ended up doing a photo. So I'm going to bring back my photos one more time. And the photo I used was this one here. So I'm just going to bring that in, and you can see it's a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to put it at the edge, and I'm just going to drag it so it is the size that I want. Click on Enter, and then I'm going to move it up a little bit. Whoops. I need the Move tool to do that. So I'm going to move this up a little bit. Control or Command minus so I can see the whole thing. And I'm going to bring it down below the group so that my story shows up. And because I wanted this story to be more in the white, I'm going to drop it down a little bit. I'm just using my arrows to kind of drop the photo down a little bit. And that looks okay. Maybe I'll bring it up some. I don't know. That is something that you can play with. Now, the next thing that I wanted to do is change the opacity because I do want to have, I don't want this photo to be like so drastic. So I'm going to change the opacity of this photo. I'm going to bring it down a little bit so that when I add my journaling, it's not so stark. And I think I brought mine down to about 50, but let's do like 74 or 75. That looks good. I'm going to Control or Command plus to just bring it up a little bit higher here. All right. So because whenever I'm like clicking on stuff and adding text, I'm always clicking on the background. I want to lock the background. So I'm just going to make sure that I've got my photo selected and then click on this lock. And it's going to lock this down so that I don't keep selecting it and moving it around. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is I'm actually going to work on this next digital file, this Life is Lovely. And the easiest thing to do here is I need to get rid of the red, but I actually want this to be black. So the easiest thing to do, since this is white, this is a white text, is I'm just going to invert it. So it's going to invert the colors so that this white will turn black and then the red will turn a blue color, whatever its opposite is. So I'm going to do Command or Control I, and you can see that now I've just inverted it, the colors. And you can do this with photos. You can do this with anything. It's just Control or Command I. And now I'm going to come back to the wand tool, and I'm going to click on the blue, right click, and then click on similar. And now it's going to highlight all of that blue. I want to make sure that the background does not have a lock on it. So click on that lock because I want to be able to delete this background, and then just go ahead and delete it. And now I'm going to Control or Command D to get rid of those marching ants. And you can see that now I've got a really clean file that I can use as like a stamp. So I'm actually going to click and select it and drag it into our file here. And now that I've got it in here, it's a little too big. So I'm going to Control or Command T to bring those bounding boxes in. I'm just going to shrink this up a little bit here. So one thing I noticed when I was working on this file as well is I thought that black was kind of black. So I wanted to make it a little bit darker brown instead of black. I thought that that would work a little bit better with all of these like orangey brown colors. So the next thing I'm going to do is get my eyedropper tool. I'm just going to eyedropper one of these dark brown colors, and that actually looks gray. So I'm just going to move around. And the reason why it looks gray is because I'm not on the photo. Make sure you're on the photo. I thought that was kind of weird. So you just want to click until you've got a color that you are liking. And it can show you, it shows you here what the color is. And I think I want it to be a little bit more orange. Just, you know, click around until you get what you want. And I think that that looks nice. So you can see that it's indicated here. Maybe I want it to be a little bit more orange, so I will bring it in a little bit there. And I want it to be a little bit darker. So now I've got this rich dark brown. You can see it up here as well. All right. So you can just play with it and mess it around. I think I actually want it to be a little bit darker. I want it to have the feel of black, but you know when you're looking at it that it's not black. So you see I've got this really rich brown, and you can continue to play with that until it looks exactly how you want it to look. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first I will do it on this layer right here with this stamp. I'm going to come down here to where it says FX, which is the function, come up to color overlay, and I'm going to bring over this document or this box here. Click on the color here. You can see that I did this in the last time I was playing around here. But you can just go ahead. You could click the one that you want here, or you can click on what we already played around with. And I actually liked the darker one that I had before. So I'm going to click down in here, and then I'm going to go ahead and click OK and click OK. And now you can see it's probably hard to tell, but this is a darker brown here. And you can see the effect here as I take the eyeball on and off. There's black and there's brown. It's just very subtle, but I think it really adds to the end result. So I'm going to do the same thing with this layer here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this color overlay, and I'm going to hit, I think it's Control. And what I ended up doing is I just went from one to the other. I'm trying to copy it. So let's see what Shift does. Oh no, it's Alt. Alt or Option. So I'm going to click on this, Effects, and then I'm clicking on Alt or Option, and then I'm putting it back onto another layer, and that way it's just duplicating this effect. So now you can see that on both of them, and if I click on the eyeball, it goes black and then to brown. So like I said, it's very subtle, but I think it works really well with the color of photos that I am working on here. Another thing that I'm noticing that could be really cool is you could leave some of these letters open without any photos. Like that could be actually really cool. And if you wanted to do that, I'm going to Control or Command minus just so we can see this a little bit better. Let's say that I didn't want to include that T. I'm going to come down to where the T is, and I'm going to uncheck that T. And so now you can see that the T is just going to be open. And let's say I wanted to do that with the V as well. So now I've got an open V. So now I've got just a different feel to this layout, which I think is actually pretty cool, to be honest. I kind of like that. Maybe I'll leave it. So I don't know. We'll see. I did like the way that looked with the sun setting. So anyway, I'm just letting you know that that is an option for you if you are interested. Then the next thing that I did, pretty easy, is I did a text file. So what I want to do, there's better ways of doing this in other files, but because other programs, but because I'm using Photoshop, this is how we're going to do it in Photoshop. I'm going to create a text box with the pen tool. And I can't remember if I need to be on my own layer or not. So I'm just going to create a new layer here. And just under the L, I'm going to create a text box. And when I come over here, you know, where I think I want it to go, I'm going to hit Shift just so this line is straight. And then I'm going to come down here, again, hold down Shift when I click, and then release it. Hold down Shift when I click, and then release it. Again, hold down Shift, click. And this you just kind of have to eyeball, hold down Shift, and then do it again. You can see that this is not perfect, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. Then we're going to come to our type tool, or you can hit T. And when you hover in this area, you can see that it's got a circle around that icon, and that just means that you're going to start flowing your text into the shape that we just made. If you hover over the line, it's going to have the text go around the box here, which is not what we want to do. We want it to be on the inside. And we're doing this because we want to avoid this stamp here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the inside here, and you can see that what's going to happen is it's going to fill up with some just dummy text, but I can say whatever it is that I want. I'm not going to type anything in right now because I can't think of anything, but there you can see now I've got some type, and you can play and change up all the settings and the font and everything that you want, just so you know that that is a possibility. But I just want you to know that and I'm going to come back to my file, that you will avoid this little stamp here, because their type is going to stay within that shape that you created. Now you can see that it's a little bit harder to read this text. You may want to go back to your photo and change the opacity, but we have to make sure it's unlocked first. So we may want to just change the opacity a little bit there if you want, so that it's easier to see your file. I'm going to close down the group here just so I don't mess with anything. All right, guys, so that's basically it. I know that there is a few steps here, but once you get the hang of it, it actually goes pretty quickly. So hopefully this is something you guys will give a try, and that this will help you put this in your digital arsenal, so you'll know that this is something that you have on hand that you can use with some of your other digital files. So anyway, you guys, I hope that you guys have a lovely day. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and I will definitely get back to you. And you guys, we will see you in the next video. Bye.